Today I'm going to talk about how you can and we are leveraging OpenSSL in our compliance activities. You probably heard a lot of about different compliance activities already at this conference because it's like biggest chunks of what you can do with OpenSSL. So as you introduce me, I'm Jaroslav. I work for Red Hat. It's been actually. I think in like a few months I will be able to legally drink alcohol with my Red Hat tenure. So it's going to be 18 years very soon. So I'm looking forward for it. I work in the product security compliance team. We mostly work on different things. Like my role was up to recent transition was running the FIPS program, Common Criteria program, USGV6 program, and other government security-related compliance programs. I'm also like you can see, I'm man of all the heads you can possibly have. So I'm also in this business advisory committee for distributions. For that reason, I will do a first announcement now. So if you are going to be at the conference, you are somehow related to distributions, please come on Thursday, 3 p.m. to the laptop room, the Belvedere 5. We will have like at 3 p.m. Very short gathering of distributions. So that's the announcement. Okay, so why we are going to be here today? So the first thing is how Red Hat leverages OpenSSL in our compliance activities. The other thing is like how you could leverage OpenSSL in your compliance activities, but it's not enough. When I was creating this presentation and also my role transitioned, I realized there is a proposal I have to make at the conference. So you will hear about my proposal. It's going to be revealed. So please stay tuned. Okay, so how we do it? Next one. So we use OpenSSL extensively, basically in many programs. One of these programs is FIPS. That's the US or North American government standards for cryptography, governed by CMVP, with the cryptographic module validation program. It's a mutual thing between US and Canada. We have FIPS 140-2 and 140-3 validations. So on RHEL 9 and newer, everything is -3 from the very beginning. On RHEL 8, let's say it's a mix of different versions. I will talk more about it later. One of the many reasons we do FIPS is FedRAMP. FedRAMP is a big topic, of any other big corporation in the US who wants to serve the government clouds in the US. As I said, on RHEL 8, it's a mix of -2 and -3. Currently, we have a certificate 4642 for OpenSSL 111K. As the good thing about this is the same code is available for 8.6, 8.7, 8.9, 8.8, 8.9, and 8.10. 8.10 is going to live with us, for a while. Just one note for -2. -2 is going to end and will move to the historical list on September 2026. So this certificate will not, live, for more than a year now, but we'll see. And in RHEL 9 and RHEL 10, we have the OpenSSL FIPS provider. Basically, what we did, as the upstream allowed it, and I will talk more about it later, we basically split out the provider from the main RPM. So as of RHEL 9.2, you can use exactly the same RPM with the FIPS provider for everything in every version. Even RHEL 10, the same code. The only thing is pending is the operational environment update in the security policy. Where else is OpenSSL used? So Golang. Golang is a big thing. It runs OpenShift, the Kubernetes product we have. There is this interesting combination of different libraries. So to get FIPS validation, Google did boring SSL FIPS validation to be used through C bindings in Golang because the Golang cryptography wasn't FIPS validated. We replaced boring SSL with OpenSSL to make it even more complicated. Hopefully this will change very soon. There was Golang FIPS validation of the actual FIPS, Golang cryptography. And then we use a lot OpenSSL in common criteria. So we do common criteria, especially for Red Hat Enterprise Linux. Really a lot of OpenSSL, so I don't know if anybody from crypto team is here. I don't see anyone, but they don't like me because every time something happens, it's usually OpenSSL. And we go to crypto team, hey, crypto team, we need a fix. Okay, so how you could leverage OpenSSL in your activities. One thing that exists is so-called module rebranding. Module rebranding is that you take existing FIPS certificate, you go to vendor that has this FIPS certificate, and you can ask them if there are no modification, no changes. You basically can take that FIPS certificate and rebrand it under your name with some limitations and some issues I will talk about later. So this is the exact citation of how rebranding works. The question is, do I have to rebrand? The answer is, like, if you don't care about rebranding, you can have a cup of coffee and come back for my second part of the presentation. Okay, so it's perfectly okay to use distribution, upstream, OpenSSL, FIPS certificate. It's posted on the CMVP website. You don't have to do rebranding. However, if the hardware platform matches, you don't need to. You can do your own FIPS 140-3 validation. I know there are a few people from labs. They will be super happy to do the full validation from the scratch because this thing can be expensive. So how Red Hat can help you? One of the things that FIPS 140-3, it can take years. I think the current queue is like 2 years. So basically you spend at least 1 year preparing your module to get FIPS validated. Then you submit it and you wait. You wait. You wait. You see this famous queue. Nothing is happening. Then at some point you may be contacted. Hey, it's moving, but we have comments to deal with and so on. So this is interesting process because after 3 years you will receive your certificate with all the CVEs that happened during that 3 years. And then customers will start coming, hey, Jaroslav, do we have to use that OpenSSL with Heartbleed? Or should we update it? But the certificate is only for the version with Heartbleed. Is that like, I can't tell you anything because, well, if you need to be strictly compliant, use this like Emmental like library, all CVEs, so own FIPS validation also is expensive. You will need your SMEs that are able, to talk this, strange language sometimes. Also the labs costs, because you have to pay, for the third-party accredited lab to go through the validation. So this is a fast track. So if you use RHEL, the simplest option is just, come to me, talk to me. At Red Hat, we offer rebranding for free as long as the operational environment is or are Red Hat products. So basically, just we have a few like requirements. What I will do is like I will just sign a letter of approval. Just like okay, you can do it. You will go to our FIPS lab. They will ask for some money for rebranding, but it's definitely faster and cheaper process, and you can have your own certificate like in just a few months if everything goes smooth. Usually the most time is spent on contracting side and all these legal things that are completely out of scope for compliance. If you use other Linux distributions, and I know there are other few Linux distributions here at the conference, you will have to talk to them, just join them, see, hey guys, we like to rebrand, and very likely I know at least one major Linux distribution is allowing rebrandings, and there are rebrandings. And if you use upstream OpenSSL, go to talk to Tim, get the support contract with OpenSSL. That's actually one of the in revenue streams for OpenSSL, because you can get the support contract, and then you will, get an option to get your OpenSSL rebranded under your name. So there are some limitations in rebranding. As I said, the queue is huge. So at some point, CMVP came with idea of so-called interim certificates. Interim certificates are not eligible for rebranding, unfortunately. There needs to be so-called BR1 resubmission. With this, they should, I was told, prioritize the rebranded submissions, but you will get to the end of the queue. So that's the problem. FIPS 140-2, you can rebrand our OpenSSL certificate on FIPS-2. It's going to end, as I said, in September 2026, and I also already heard that no later than January it will be possible to do any submissions to the CMVP. So if you need your rebranded certificate, talk to me now. Then, of course, another thing is like the vendor affirmation versus full testing. FIPS is extremely sensitive on over-specification of processors. So basically, you need to certify on one, particular processor, and everything else is not tested, and then you may have, problems. So for some vendors, it actually might, make sense to rebrand our certificate and test it on some other, hardware platform. Where is the CPU equivalency group I'm a member of? I haven't been to that meetings for a while because it wasn't moving, and yeah, that's life. And yeah, there are other, ways, you can, do rebranding. So now I'm getting to that, most important part of my talk, and this is a proposal. So guess about what the proposal is going to be. No one? So where is the problem? Compliance is usually an expensive and slow-moving process. I already told you, like wait for 2 years. There's a proliferation of different standards. Like I'm joking, it's like a running joke. Like every 2 weeks I learn about a new compliance activity, a new acronym we need to be compliant with. It's basically impossible, to comply with everything. It takes time, it's super expensive. So you have US, in Europe you have a lot of new legislations coming, APEC, everywhere. We just can't deal with that. Red Hat is already a relatively big company, like 20K people. The budget spent on certifications is like doubles every year. Yeah, we are just in the budget season, and the number is horrible. So, and there is one thing. I will jump to this slide. There is no competition until you receive the certificate. So it's amazing, like we are all waiting in front of this huge gate, and we can't do anything. We can't skip. So when, for example, the interim certificates were introduced, there was a guy, like we had a discussion with CMVP and other vendors, and there was a guy, hey, we already submitted our modules, so we don't want interim certificates because we believe we will be 1 month ahead of everyone else. Yeah, that's amazing, but for next 2 years you will have nothing. Ah, okay, you are right. So you can't compete. It's nonsense. So let's compete with real products, with features, not just that we have enough stamps, because we need to collaborate. We need to talk together to get these stamps easier, faster, more efficient, and yeah. So I will try to go back. Yeah, no competition until certificates are received. So let's make this gate smaller, like standard, run. So, and why I'm talking about this at this conference? The reason is obvious. OpenSSL is everywhere when security is somehow involved. It's in every compliance activity. As I already told you, if I have a problem with common criteria, we go to crypto team. If we have problem with other security standards, we usually talk to OpenSSL guys at Red Hat. They probably hate me for that. I even believe that we once introduced a CVE into OpenSSL because we had to do last moment change, and there was a bug, and then like a few months later I saw, hey, nice CVE, but I remember, when we asked our OpenSSL guy, to work on this. Do you need a proof? Join the talk tomorrow. My friends, Martin Ukrop and Vladimir Peňaz, they are going to talk about a project that's called SecCerts. And basically the idea of this, is how much OpenSSL is used in compliance activities. The SecCerts tool is basically like a huge database of all certificates downloaded to a huge database with API. So they basically ask like how many times OpenSSL appears in FIPS, how many times OpenSSL appears in OpenSSL and common criteria. The number is huge. It's like 80% if I remember it correctly. So go to that talk. Yeah, why OpenSSL? So on FIPS 140-2 or 140, a lot of things happened over time. How we could collaborate and how everyone collaborates. The FIPS provider. Thank you OpenSSL. This was a major shift in how we do OpenSSL FIPS compliance. That's huge. We could split it out, smaller crypto boundary module. We don't have to update it with every update to OpenSSL every CVE. That's amazing. Again, thank you. We have some minor changes. That's one of the reasons why, like this third bullet is sometimes like OpenSSL upstream is using one lab, we are using another lab, so different accredited labs could test OpenSSL. And we have conflicting requirements, like our lab tells us, hey guys, you have to change this. But upstream didn't have to change that, because their lab told them, no, you don't have to. So sometimes, the mutual agreement on, what is the right FIPS code that we should, use would be perfect. No conflicting requirements, no patches downstream. That is something that we would use a lot. A lot of automation happened. So for example, the ACVP testing, the algorithm testing. Let's see what will happen with module validations in the future. But I believe this is like automation is the key. We can somehow collaborate on making the automation flawless, push our labs and other vendors, to cooperate and try to use same tooling. That would be amazing. And then compete on like additional features. And one thing that we worked on is the cryptic module. It's PKCS 11 software token that's built on OpenSSL. And basically the idea is that we will plug this statically linked module into everything. So yes, in the end, for example, NSS for FIPS compliance will use OpenSSL cryptography inside. That's going to be fun, but our belief is that we will not have to revalidate every time for a lot of money and wait for 2 years to get that certificate. On side of common criteria, OpenSSL is used a lot. So it's used for cryptography, of course. The algorithm certificates I talked about are required now for NIAP common criteria certifications. The ESV certificates are required. We have ESV certificate, the entropy source validation certificate for OpenSSL. You can also reuse, we allow it. Then, of course, the TLS functional package, the new version 2.1 functional package is now required for OSPP as of October. It caused a lot of troubles. Again, we can cooperate. Hey, if you did review of TLS FP requirements, we can share it. That's one thing. Vulnerabilities is another thing. The famous requirement of common criteria is like 0 known vulnerabilities. It's impossible, unmitigated, of course. So it's impossible. So that's another place we can cooperate together. And then one interesting thing is labs test environments, because each lab is using some OpenSSL in some way for their infrastructure. Cyber Resilience Act is going to be a big thing in Europe. I will not talk much about that, but the question is like how OpenSSL will handle stewardship, so-called, if OpenSSL is going to be manufactured and so on. So this is big question in Europe. And the standardization is now happening in Sentinel-like and ETSI. So again, something where OpenSSL can get engaged, and another voice of OpenSSL would be great. So we have to work together. We have to coordinate. Do we need a compliance sub-community? Like we have distribution community, large businesses, small businesses? Yes. I think we need something, but is it going to be a sub-community because it will be vertical across large businesses, small businesses, distributions, maybe academia, I don't know. So this is going to be interesting thing, and I'm going to propose it. Maybe we need something like SIG, special interest group, whatever we can have. Shared certification artifacts, have a documentation like, hey, in Red Hat we did this way, maybe other, let's say upstream, we did this in this way. So I think, like configuration, whatever we can share, it would be great. Participate in these, coordinated efforts, like join OpenSSF, Open Regulatory Compliance Working Group under Eclipse Foundation. The CRA standardization is going on. So there are many ways, and of course, talk to MEP. And then everyone will win. OpenSSL will foster its dominance among all libraries, and there will be talks about the forks and so on. Vendors, fast to market, no more stamps, blockers. Like I sometimes say I collect Pokemons when someone asks me what I do for my job. Yes, Pokemons. Labs, more validations coming from more vendors. So certificates will become a commodity. But then, more people will, be able to buy this commodity from you. And of course, for regulators, real security. No 2 years old, full of CVE, OpenSSL that's stamped. It's secure. No, it is not. So yes, OpenSSL strong together. Let's try it. If you want to talk to me, and we can figure out some ways how we can, cooperate. Thank you.
Jardo, by the way, great presentation, thank you. I wanted to ask if something similar like in the CNA program that we now have different tiers of CNAs that actually make the information or the process bubble up to the topmost root CNA, if something like that would be possible for the compliance for FIPS, so that, I don't know, vendors, distributions, projects would help the government body to do this, so that we don't have such a long queue.
Well, the queue, that's like a different problem. It's that as always in any government agency, it's underfunded agency that's actually got hit by Dodge even more than it was before. There are ways, how you can influence. That's my part of the job now, to influence these bodies, to make things smoother, faster, more efficient. We will see if they will, hear for this. That's why I believe, we should start first in our community, cooperate, make sure that this, process before the submission is going to be faster. What happens after the submission? We have very, low control, but one day, maybe people will also be able, to show, hey, we made it more efficient before submission, so now let's work together with government agencies to make it more efficient after the submission. That would be great. Where is the question, Jay? At the back.
Thanks, great job, Jaroslav. So I'm a lab, Jason Lawler from Lightship Security. Just as a quick update, last week the CMVP committed to having a 6-month queue by the end of this year, and by July of 2026, no queue at all. So that's very heartening news. That means they're going to trust the labs to do a lot more of the review, not duplicate the work, sample some of our work, and just make the process that much more efficient, because you're right, they're not getting more resources. So hopefully that's good news for the folks that use the program.
Thank you for good news. I heard no queue by the end of 2025, a year ago at the ICMC. So let's see. Like for example, this BR1 was to make it more efficient. Basically, like there is a format in what labs will submit to CMVP, so they don't have to review hundreds of algorithms manually. So there are ways how even the government bodies can make this our lives easier. So yeah, let's hope no queue. I'm looking for that.